The Barbecue Central radio show will air live at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
This is Chad Hayden with Moonshiner Barbecue's 19th Annual Jack Daniel's World Barbecue Champion, and this is Barbecue Central.
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh, should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
All right, good evening and welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is the show that talks about all things important in the world of barbecue and grilling. Broadcasting live and direct from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio. It is the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I'm your program host, Greg Rippey. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evening. It's a jam-packed, wild show after we've been off for a week. If you're wondering, this is live, local, and late breaking. And if you want to contribute to this show this evening via phone call or email, I'm more than happy to have you do it. Here's the contact info.
You can get in touch with the show by calling 216-220-0966. Email Greg at the bbqcentralshow.com. On the Twitter and Instagrams at BBQ Central Show.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you didn't get the newsletter. That comes out at 4 o'clock Eastern each and every day. Or each and every Tuesday before the show to give you a little heads up. If you didn't get it, it is the second Tuesday of the month. That means, of course, a visit from the creator, the most heavily trafficked and popular barbecue and grilling website on the face of the earth, Meathead Goldwyn, is in. We're going to do a little rehashing, and then we have some questions from the studio audience that have been submitted to me. So stay tuned for some really good information that, by all accounts, I'll get into it here in 12, 13 minutes, but there are high-level steak restaurants in this country still today that continue to propagate terrible, false, incorrect information. They don't know they're doing it, and they have no problem disseminating that information in an incorrect fashion as fast as humanly possible. So if you ever find yourself second-guessing or wanting to correct a server, which I would never do. I've been the server. Now, of course, I'm always really interested in making sure that my facts are correct and proper with science meriting it. However, I understand other people just are really interested in keeping a job. And if somebody above them in a boss-style fashion or station says, this is how you're going to do your delivery of the meat, this is how you're going to tell them the cooking process is, this is what you're going to tell them happens to the meat during the cooking process, X, Y, and Z. By the way, X, Y, and Z, all wrong. Hey, you don't care. You just want the paycheck, right? I get it. However, bad information continues to be I can understand getting that from Lone Star or Longhorn or the other one with the Australian guy talking, Outback. That, I just throw it away. Who cares? Bad information. I'm not here for your information. I'm here for above average steak, maybe a nice cocktail. But when you're getting into paying steak by the ounce, now we've hit a new threshold of where knowledge should be, in my opinion. We'll see if you think the same. So that'll be Meathead Goldwyn coming up at 9:14 and 9:35 in his usual second Tuesday segment. Then we will move on to the second hour. This past weekend, a 2-day event. There were actually multiple 2-day events, but this one took place up in the Midwest North, Wisconsin. A 2-day Memphis Masters in May took place. And joining me, a day one winner, and who has been a guest on this show a couple different times, one of the pitmaster. We'll have to talk to him about this too, by the way. I don't know if Jeff is the pitmaster. We'll introduce him that way and see how he takes it. But there's definitely three dudes on the team. But we'll be talking with Jeff Vanderlinde. And at 10:35, we'll be talking about the first day win, and then he also scored an 8th place overall second day in the Classic. So looking forward to catching up with Jeff Vanderlinde. And then at 10:35, he has been on this show a couple times since the beginning of the year. He was a team I was going to follow last year, but I blew that all up because I love to talk about stuff that I don't end up doing. He has found a groove. I love telling him at the beginning of the year, he's like, I got some things I'm going to be trying out. I'm going to get this thing back on track. We're going to hit the winning ways again. I'm rededicating. Well, 3 grand championships in a row means not only has he rededicated, he's found whatever it is, and he has it going right now. I am talking about Clarence Joseph, pitmaster of Mama and Papa Joe's Barbecue. Love talking with CJ. Nobody hotter than he is right now in Texas, I got to tell you. 3 in a row. Love 3 in a row. 216-220-0966. Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. All right, let everybody know the show's on. Send them over to OutdoorCookingChannel.com to watch the show video feed, which from what I see in the chat room seems to be incredibly well tonight. I have no idea why. Everything's, of course, the same, but whatever. You can also send them to my website, thebbqcentralshow.com, and you get the audio there. You can also find it on TuneIn. You can find it on Simple Radio, I believe. That's the new app that John Dawson was telling me about at the last broadcast that we had. A number of different ways to find it. And if you can't get it, you sign up by podcast, which is what 98% of people do anyway. You can find the show on iTunes, Google Play, and all the notorious, typical, and otherwise places that you have to go podcast directory style. So that's how you find the show if you can't get it live between 9 and 11. Let me ask you this. If I charged you $1, one thin dollar, would you download a Barbecue Central Show app to your smartphone? Would you? That might be in the works. All right. What happened last Tuesday? No show. Oh, dear Lord. What are we going to do? I get it. I hate missing shows more than anything. However, when health calls, when surgery calls, and luckily for me, not for me, but not luckily for me, my wife, had what is called a Makoplasty. Does anybody know what a Makoplasty is? So instead of congenitally bad knees for my wife, joints just in general, I would say. At 42, she's had plus 12, 13, 14 surgeries between knees and elbows, 3 C-sections, that's childbirth, 2 foot surgeries in the past 3 years. It's just not a congenitally solid thing that she has from the joints and some bones and so forth. So, Makoplasty is not your traditional total knee replacement. Instead, they try and keep as much of your own homegrown tissues and bones and stuff and only replace portions or a partial knee replacement. Done via the Mako robot, which is what they call it, the Makoplasty. And through a few series of... Did I keep the effects on? No. Okay. Through a series of some CAT scans to get some really detailed ideas of how the top of the femur is, through the use of this robot, and then some of the implements that they put in there. You don't have to do the total knee. So we're hoping 15 years before we have to go in and actually do the knee replacement, total knee replacement. This is just staving off the inevitable. This isn't a fix. This is going to be probably dual knee replacements at some point. But for 42, mean, she's in recovery room with people that are like 65, 70 years old, my parents' age and stuff like that. Those are the people that need total knee replacements, not a 42-year-old, for crying out loud. So that was first thing Wednesday morning. We had to go into the hospital the night before, hence no show. So we're back live and better than ever here right now. And as I said, hate to miss a show under any circumstance. But this one, nothing I could do about it for sure. And now the recovery process is underway, and we'll see how a lot of pain, but some movement. We're 4 days out, so or almost a week out. So looking forward to getting past the first couple weeks, because outcomes after that have seemed to be really valued by the people that have had them done. So thank you in advance for all of your well wishes in her recovery. All right, Meathead coming up out of the break, folks. Let me talk to you quickly about Cook Shack. They manufacture smoker ovens for barbecue lovers with any amount of experience, whether you're a barbecue in the backyard person, on the competition circuit, if you cook in a 5-star dining facility. Cook Shack has the unit that will do the job. And with a full line of barbecue sauces, spices, pellets, and wood chunks, it's the perfect one-stop shop. Cook Shack strives to be your barbecue resource center by offering cooking classes, online recipes, how-to videos, 2 blogs, smoke and grilling 101s, and a video cooking classroom. Check out their website at cookshack.com or follow them on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Pinterest, and Google+. Get advice or share your passion for barbecue on their world-class barbecue forum. Cook Shack pellet-fired smokers are the choice of champions because they were designed by a champion, Ed Fast Eddie Morin. The FEC 100, PG 1000, always customer favorites. The PG 1000 can actually double as a smoker and grill, low and slow, hot and fast. The pellet grill line gives you the most for your money. Cook Shack Residential Electric Smokers, the #1 smoker in the industry. High quality means high durability and versatility. Here's the bottom line. Anything you can cook in your oven, you can make in a Cook Shack. Passion, dedication drives Cook Shack's manufacturing with quality, always being at the forefront. Get the best in barbecue since 1962. Call 800-423-0698. That's 800-423-0698. Or visit their website at cookshack.com. That's COOKSHACK. Cookshack.com. Yes, twice on the foot surgery, if that's what you're asking. Twice. All right, Meathead Goldwyn coming up out of the break. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Radio Network studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Radio Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Hey, welcome back. You love to barbecue, you love to compete, you love to win. Do all three. With the help from Smithfield since 1938, they have been producing high-quality, fresh pork products. Now they invite you to get smoking with Smithfield. If you're a competitive barbecuer, you can join the Committed Cooks program, members who commit to cooking with premium, hand-trimmed Smithfield fresh pork. Receive free swag and other great prizes. Commit to cooking with Smithfield. See what's happening over at SmokinWithSmithfield.com. SmokinWithSmithfield.com. All right, joining me now, your second Tuesday of the month recurring guest, the founder, creator, and overall mastermind of the most popular barbecue and grilling website on the face of the earth. You know him, you love him. Meathead Goldwyn joining us here on the show. Meathead, how are you, buddy? Hold on, Meathead. I didn't unmute you. Hold on one second. Meathead, how are you? Sorry, I didn't unmute. I forgot to unmute.
Oh, I said hello, Central Arts, and how's the Cleveland Cavalier barbecue tonight?
We are 8-0 right now, my friend. If you
Yes,
get my
you
drift, yeah, we are doing very well. Now, let me point one thing out here for the people that are in the instant chat room. As I was just going over my wife's not so lucky partial knee replacement. You and Doug Scheiding, a couple other people like, oh, you should have brain surgery because you said your wife's age out loud. And it really couldn't have come at a better time that you mentioned that, because Becky and I just had this conversation literally hours ago about people who freak out when their age is dropped, like in public, or if you ask somebody like how old you are. She said when she was teaching a couple weekends ago, one of her students was like, hey, how old are you? And she's like, I'm 42. And the other student was like, oh, you said your age. Like, what the hell? It's just a number, right, Meathead?
To your wife, I know many women who
Why? You're super
desire.
smart. Meathead, you're super smart. What is the deal behind hiding age? Like, what are you gaining? What if you look like an old piece of crap?
Well, you don't know that, though. You think you look beautiful and young, and you want everybody to think you're 29.
All right, well, I get it, but I mean, I'm here. I like to live a life of transparency, Meathead.
Oh, God.
That's right.
I just, Tuesday night, Greg knows this. I don't know if the audience knows. Tuesday night is date night at my house. My wife and I and her brother and his wife go to the movies on Tuesday night, almost every Tuesday, and, occasionally when we can't. And afterwards, we go out for a bite to eat, and I scurry home on the second Tuesday to make time for the Centralites and Greg. And you talk about transparency. We saw the new Tom Hanks movie. I think it's Emma Watson, the young girl from
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. She's grown up, and it's called The Circle. And it's a really interesting movie. It's about a big company somewhere between Google and Facebook that has massive information on everybody and encourages everybody to share. That if you have secrets, you're lying to the world around you. That you should have no secrets. You should live life in the open. And in fact, they do an experiment with this young girl. They have these miniature cameras they've developed, and they put it on her. So everything she does, every minute of her life, is shared on the internet.
Wow.
And it has some very interesting implications, political implications, privacy implications. It's thought-provoking, because as people who live on the internet or spend time on the internet, as I do and you do, you don't have to be a genius to figure out you have no privacy anymore.
Right.
The idea of privacy is an obsolete concept. You can grasp for straws. You can hold out. I mean, your telephone always knows where you are.
Right. Always listening. It's always listening too, by the way.
Always your Google Mail,
Your
knows
Alexa.
all your secrets.
Right.
Your web browsers. There's not much to conceal anymore. And it's really hard for me, I'm an old fart, and a lot of people to come to grips with the fact that I have no privacy. It's really bizarre. And this movie addresses that. So you were just talking about keeping secrets. I thought that was a germane digression.
That's right. Germane, absolutely. So here we are, Meathead, for our regular second Tuesday meeting. And the first couple topics that I wanted to address with you this evening are germane, if I can use your term, because we're kind of just finishing out the long travel of national level JO volleyball. And I was in one of the outer suburbs of Chicago on the western, Rosemont, I believe is the name of the city. they have a Gibson Steakhouse there. And then we were in Kansas City 2 weeks ago, and I ate at a place called Anton's, which I had like one of the top 3 steaks I've ever had in my life at this place. And
they're good. So Gibson's.
And I ate at the same weekend. I also ate at 801 Chop House, which is a real high-level steakhouse. And, you know, every single time that I'm there at one of these high-level, as I had said in the open, you know, the low-level steakhouses, you know, I'm looking for about an average steak, I guess. No big deal. Expectation isn't that high. I'm not really listening to the server. But when you get into the higher-end steakhouses, you know, they have the nice chef jacket. They have 50 pens. They have the meat thermometer on the side of the arm. And they are going through painstaking detail of what kind of cut it is and how it's raised and how the cooking process is. They are really, really trying to sell you on getting that bone-in ribeye because it's so much more luscious and the bone is adding flavor to the meat and all of these other things that we have talked about. It was months and months ago when we really dove into the dichotomy of what this whole bone situation is. But I wanted to readdress it because, you know, if I'm paying $75 or $100 for one steak, at least you could be telling me the right information. I don't want to be paying that amount of money and know that I know more than you do at the table. And maybe I'm just a very small percentage of the consumer that takes the time to realize and know what things are actually happening during the cooking process and what's true and what's false. But for the people that just might be finding the show or they're just getting in, I mean, this is the beginnings of barbecue and grilling season. One of the biggest pitmaster tales or husband tales or myths in barbecue is this continuance of the bone and the meat somehow making it sweeter or more flavorful. And you did a real big in-depth piece on this, and I think it's at least worth a re-mention or a recover so everybody has the right information as we move forward through the summer.
Well, there's one more, and you know this one intimately. You talk about it, that goes with bone-in meat, and that is
sealing in the juices, which that was going to be planned or part B of this too, because that's I heard that 3 times as well.
Yeah, I was just recently at a high-end steakhouse in Chicago. Was very pleased that my Waitron knew she. Well, as a waiter, waitress,
server.
Okay, Waitron, server. My server knew the stuff. She said, no, the bone doesn't add any flavor, and searing doesn't seal in the juices. So I was very pleased to hear that. But I'm not surprised. Anybody who's worked in the restaurant business knows wait staff are hard to train. It's hard to get them to training sessions. They really only want to come in when it's work time. So getting them into training sessions, keeping them awake, teaching is not always easy. You would think at a high-end steakhouse where there are pretty good tips, they would learn their craft more. But the fact is, as you point out, yes, if you're going to cook beef short ribs in a crock pot, the marrow of the bone is loaded with flavor. It's got a lot of fat and connective tissues and all kinds of stuff. And when you put it in a liquid, in a wet cooking environment, water is a solvent. And that's why we wash our hands and our cars with it. The water will pull the flavor out of the marrow and enrich the broth so that your stew, your liquid, is incredibly rich and flavorful. And it's essential to keep the bone in because that's a vital part of the flavor. But when you cook in a dry environment, like an oven or a grill, the marrow cannot escape. It's surrounded by 1/8 to 1/4 inch calcium. And calcium has no flavor. That wall of that bone is thick and impenetrable, and the marrow cannot get out. And in fact, what happens is it alters the heating properties of the meat. It's actually like a heat reflector on the space shuttle. And so the idea that it's the meat that is next to the bone is sweeter. There's an old song, the sweeter, closer to the bone, the sweeter the meat.
Right.
is because it's less cooked. And if you like a steak medium rare as I do, you'll notice that it's almost always rare. It's not as cooked next to the bone because the bone has insulated it, and so the meat doesn't get as warm and doesn't cook as well as the opposite side of the meat where there is no bone. And so if you take the bone off, you'll get even heating all around, and you won't have this section where the meat is rare and sometimes stringy and close to raw. What happens though, which is interesting, is if you take a whole beef primal like a standing rib roast, and you put it on the bones, which is hence the name standing rib roast, it will reflect heat for a long while, but eventually it warms up. And once it warms up, it retains heat. And so as you take the roast out, and if you rest the meat, it will continue to cook. So it can actually be more cooked next to the bone. So it can have both effects, which is why when I do a rib roast, I take the bones off, and now I got a rack of beef ribs.
Yep.
That's a whole nother meal. And my beef roast is round, tubular, meat on all sides. It cooks evenly. As far as the searing is concerned, this is something that started in the 1800s. Some German scientists came up with the theory that searing seals in the juices, and it's been disproven many times. Alton Brown did a really good show on the subject where he cooked two steaks side by side, one seared and one not. And when you just think about it, if you subject a steak to really, really high temperature in order to sear it, you're evaporating moisture. And usually a seared steak will weigh less than a non-seared steak because you've evaporated moisture.
Yeah.
But you do want to sear a steak, not because it seals in juices, because these muscle fibers are not balloons. They don't need to be tied off at the end by heat. The searing creates flavor. It browns the meat. That's the Maillard reaction, and that's wonderful flavor. So you absolutely want to sear meat, but it doesn't do anything to sear in the juices. And the third part of the mythology, and this one is harder to prove, and it's not proven. I have pretty good evidence, and that is the idea that resting the meat redistributes the juices in some fashion. I have a lengthy logical debate on this subject. And in fact, I'm going to underwrite research at Texas Tech University to finally answer this question once and for all. What does resting a steak do? Resting being different from holding. If you got a big fat brisket that you've cooked at 200 degrees and hold it in a Cambro, that's different than taking a steak and cooking it to 130 degrees and resting it for 15, 20 minutes to redistribute the juices. So the mythology of steak is out there, but wait staff just doesn't get the message, unfortunately.
There seems to be a lot of well-known people on television that will also tell people that are watching, get that sear on there to seal in those juices. And you would imagine that if somebody is watching from behind the camera at a Food Network or one of these other type stations, they themselves would do research to make sure that the person on the other side of the camera, the talent, isn't making themselves look like a fool. But that doesn't seem to be the case either. And not only that, I would say as far as the resting is concerned, more people would probably buy into the fact that searing doesn't seal in the juices. But geez, to a man or woman, the resting is the most key thing. And if you don't, you're going to go from like great steak to average, or you can't ever achieve great steak platforms if you don't allow 10 and 15 minutes to rest.
Yeah, the bone-in thing is not contestable. That's definitive. There's no argument about that. That's easy to prove. You can do that with kitchen science. You don't need a special laboratory. Searing is another one that's easy to prove. You can do that also in the kitchen, but with a decent kitchen scale. You can prove that. That's been proven a million times. The business about resting is less easy to prove because you have to get down into the cellular level and look at the fibers and see where the juices are and measure. And it's tricky. And a lot of the experiments that have been done are flawed because, like, they take the steak and then they cut it into bits and measure the juices. But nobody eats a steak that way. I give you a steak, you cut one little bite off. You take a bite, then you go to the potato, then you have a glass of wine. So you're not slicing it up and measuring the juices. We've done that, and the amount of juice loss is minimal, and it's not lost. You mop it up on the. But that's a long discussion and debate. I mean, we can get into it if you want.
So, like, if you're going to be underwriting that kind of research at Texas Tech, and I would imagine you're hoping that your hypothesis is more correct than not. But what if it shows that indeed the proper rest makes for gives you that plateau of steak awesome, and resting or not resting doesn't?
Fantastic. I stand corrected. I think that's the beauty of when people understand what science is and go about researching. You come up with a hypothesis and you test it and you let the data show the results, right or wrong. I have no investment in, that resting. I have stated that I think that it's not necessary. I think it's wiser to serve a hot steak. I think that resting doesn't affect the location of the juices and loss of juices. But I haven't proven it. It's not proven. And I'm in a minority of one. I don't know many people that side with me on this issue. So let's hear what the research proves. And I don't care how it comes out, honestly. I mean, if it comes out one way or the other, we'll have proven it once and for all.
How long is it going to take to prove that?
I don't know. We have to. I talked to them at the National Barbecue Association conference. They were there in Texas, and we talked about it at length. And they're really excited about getting some grad students and PhD candidates on this project. So it takes time. They got to find. Excuse me. They got to find the scientists who A, are interested in the research, B, have the time, and C, haven't chosen a PhD thesis or a postdoc thesis yet. Then we have to come up with experimental methodology. How do you measure the juices? Where are they? And so on. And, you've got to come up with a plan, and then you got to start executing. We got to come up with a budget. I said I'd underwrite it. I'm optimistic I can afford it. But yeah, I don't know what it costs to do this project. So we'll see. I wouldn't expect results in any great hurry. And in fact, I haven't heard back from them in about a month. So I have to tickle them a little bit on this subject. Speaking of NBBQA, you and I talked a little bit last time we spoke about my. I go to the National Barbecue Association every year. And I forgot to tell you about something I saw there that was really cool. And I just thought of it yesterday. Probably some of your readers know what a Karubaku is.
Yeah.
It's a really clever engineering design. It's a smoker where, most of the time you burn logs, and it's a stick burner. You burn logs and the smoke and the heat come off the top. You capture it in a, cooker. Usually it's a horizontal tube like an offset smoker. And your smoke and your heat travel through the tube and cook and smoke the meat. And when you burn wood, you get smoke, which contains a lot of good stuff, flavor, and it also can contain a lot of impurities. And the trick of the great pit masters is to get that really beautiful blue smoke from a hot wood fire that doesn't have a lot of impurities. White smoke has some impurities. Yellow and brown smoke has more. Black smoke has a lot of impurities. The darker the color, the larger the particle size, the more light is refracted by the particles. So blue smoke is your holy grail. White smoke is good, and the other is less good. The Karubaku burns logs, and instead of the smoke and the heat coming off the top, there's a fan that pulls it down into the cooking chamber so that the smoke travels through the glowing embers, which are hot. And you get all of the impurities, a lot of the bad stuff that is in smoke get burned off, and it goes through the cooking chamber and comes out the exhaust, and it's invisible. It's beautiful blue smoke. So it's a great stick burner. They cost about $1,500, and I love mine. I was just cooking on it yesterday, and it just makes such great meat. Stick burners in general, if you know how to run them, turn out, I think, the best meat.
I agree.
So Bill Carew, who designed this device, has worked with the Friedrich Company, and they've created a big box like at a restaurant, like a Southern Pride, with a Karubaku bolted on the back. So the Karubaku is the heat and the smoke source, and then it goes into one of these
rotisseries.
I don't like to call them rotisseries, because rotisserie is what a chicken spins on.
All right.
I don't like to call it a carousel, because carousels go this way. I call it a Ferris wheel.
Okay.
Again, I'm the only one that calls it a Ferris wheel, but it's a Ferris wheel. It goes round and round. And that, that's like the Southern Prides and I forget the other brands.
Southern Pride.
That's one.
Southern Pride and Old Hickory.
Old Hickory is the other one I was trying to think of. And then, they have this Ferris wheel arrangement with a Karubaku on the back end. And the meat was just fantastic. Just fantastic. And they've just introduced it. I'm looking at the paperwork here. It's called a KBQ 400.
Oh.
KBQ 400. And anybody out there, I don't know what it sells for.
This is more for restaurant application, not for the backyard.
For a restaurant, well, it's on a trailer.
Okay.
So it could be used for catering, for big events, when you've got 1,000 people at the IBM picnic.
Yep.
And I've seen, these big boxes on trailers being used at catering and in outdoor events. But they are used at restaurants. It's just a really nice tool. I've only seen it once, spent about a half hour looking at it, kicked the tires, and then tasted the food and walked away and went, wow.
Wow.
So anybody who's out there shopping for a serious, heavy-duty, large-capacity smoker and is looking at Old Hickory and Southern Pride and the others, this is one to consider. It's new on the market, and I was really impressed.
All right, Meathead Goldwyn joining me here on the show. Meathead, when we come back, we're going to answer a couple listener questions, if you're down for that. Of course you are. Right, okay, hold on. Stick around for Meathead Goldwyn coming up out of the break. In the meantime, I am going to talk to you about the CHOPS Power Injector System. That's right, folks. The CHOPS Power Injector System is the National Barbecue Association's 2015, 2016, 2017 Barbecue Tool of the Year. Patent-pending technology. The number one seller is the half-gallon CHOPS Power Injector System, designed for competition or to pump up the backyard warrior. Very easy to use. Clean the fillet, pump it, and away you go. If you have just one brisket or a pork shoulder to do, you don't need to fill it all the way up. Just put in what you need, and it will use it all. It comes with 14-gauge needles, 2 replacement plastic needle adapters, 3 plug screws, a needle protector. It's $100, plus you pay shipping. Then you have the 1-gallon CHOPS Power Injector System. It's designed for catering, bigger jobs. It holds double the amount of the injection as the half-gallon. Some use it in competitions, like when you're cooking MBN whole hog or 10 shoulders to get that perfect one. It comes with 14-gauge needles, 2 replacement plastic needle adapters, 3 plug screws, and a needle protector, $120, plus you pay the shipping. And then finally, the CHOPS Full Power Injector System. It's electric and is the commercial and competition Big Daddy. This time, not a holding tank, but a 3.5-foot pickup tube instead that you can put in any size container. That's right, from a few ounces to a 55-gallon drum. It was designed for Chef Rob at the Best Barbecue Restaurant in Kansas City, and he has said time and time again that with the CHOPS Full Power Injector System, his briskets are better than ever. This one comes with a whole bunch of stuff as well. It's $325, plus you pay the shipping. A number of the top pitmasters in the world use the CPI every day to make their barbecue better than the rest, because here's the deal. We live in a foodie world now, Centralites, that require flavor in every bite. This is how you do it, and do it fast, and it's not just for meat. How about an alcohol-infused watermelon or cantaloupe or honeydew or whatever else you want to inject alcohol into? Alcoholic. Extra accessories, you want them, they got them. Every injector hand-assembled in Kansas City, Missouri, USA. All you have to do is hit the website, barbecuekansascity.com. That's BARBEQUE, barbecuekansascity.com. And check it out. See what it's all about. You'll be wondering how you ever got along with the single needle injector after you had the CHOPS Power Injector System. All right, we're back with more Meathead right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Ready to get on the air? Call 216-220-0966. Now, let's get back to the LeBron James of barbecue talk. Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Green Mountain Grills, manufacturers of some of the best pellet cookers out there on the market today. If you're looking for a big cooker to house a lot of food, they got one for you. Medium size, they got you covered there too. And if you're looking for something to take on those tailgates, they got you covered there as well. Plus, pellets to fire those cookers as well. And the new pizza insert. Huh. What do they think of next? GreenMountainGrills.com, the website. Check them out. GreenMountainGrills.com. Meathead Goldwyn joins me as we head out of the break here. Meathead, I figured we would jump into a couple listener questions. And this one coming... Yeah, go ahead, Meathead.
Before you do.
Yeah.
I want to underscore your advertiser.
Go ahead.
I have used that chopped injector.
Yeah.
And I've used a whole bunch of injectors.
Uh-huh.
That thing is the cat's meow.
I know. It's awesome.
That is amazing.
Oh.
I mean, and it really, just pump. Your hand doesn't get tired, and it'll just pump up brisket in a hurry. I love it.
Yeah, it's I struggled a long time, Meathead, with injecting at all because I figured that was just a competition thing. And I was like, I'm not yet. So, but then I got the single syringe and I started injecting. And then when Dan Uladol came on as an advertiser, I bought one and I was like, oh my God, how could I have lived so long without this? So instead of taking 10 minutes to do one butt, I could do 10 butts in about 3 or 4 minutes. Tops. I mean, you put the pressure on it, you done, next butt. It's so fantastic.
How long do you think it take to pump up a horse?
I don't know, maybe 10 minutes. A whole horse, though. That's what I'm talking. A whole horse.
Next thing, Greg. I saw it. Now that you've been converted to pumping up your briskets,
yep.
Next thing we know, we got to get you into liquid smoke.
I'm never doing it. It's never going to happen. I won't ever do that. It's so weird. Liquid smoke is a weird. It's a whole weird thing to me. I mean, I know it's a natural, and I'm not railing against that, but I will rail against things that suck, and I believe liquid smoke sucks. So, all right, Meathead. This question coming in from Gene in Florida, and it reads as the following: Hey, Greg. I posed this question in the Barbecue Brethren forum and on Facebook, and with the few responses I got, they were pretty consistent, and I'd like to get your take and Meathead's take, although I may believe what you guys might say. So here's the question. When it comes to pallet versus pocketbook, which one prevails? I'm talking about the backyard patio and not the competition guy. Just once, I'd like to try top-of-the-line barbecue fare, just as I had done with wine, which, by the way, convinced me to settle on the labels I can find at Publix. But spending big bucks on a rack of ribs or on 2 steaks, that's just something I can't seem to bring myself to do. Thanks for your time, and keep doing what you're doing. No one else is doing it. Gene in Florida. So, Gene, thanks for writing in, of course. Meathead, you're the guest. You go ahead and start tackling this. And
I'm not quite sure I understand. The case of wine, I mean, you and some of your listeners know, I actually had a career before barbecue in the wine world.
Right.
I was the wine critic for the Washington Post and the Chicago Tribune and published a magazine. And there's a rule of thumb that we have that a $20 bottle is usually better than a $10 bottle, but it's never twice as good.
Right.
So it's the law of diminishing returns. And I think this similar applies to like restaurants, high-end steakhouse. You pay $50 to $75 for a steak. Is it twice as good as a $25 steak? It's usually better. Is it that much better? So, but I'm not sure I understand his question. I mean, ribs are pretty much the same price everywhere you go. I mean,
I think this is the question. Let me try and flesh it out a little bit more for you. So you can go get ribs. You can go get your choice cuts of steak, Angus, whatever the hell it is. Mm-hmm. He's talking about buying Wagyu beef. He's talking about buying heritage breed pork. The higher end type of barbecue stuff that you hear more and more about, that people are using. You're seeing a lot of social media stuff on all this high end beef. And it appears Gene can't seem to get himself to open up the wallet in order to try them because he's afraid that if he doles out. I'm going to go completely left of center here and say Gene is struggling with the same thing that I would struggle going down to Austin, Texas, and waiting 4 hours in a line for Franklin's Barbecue. And that is, if I'm going to put in that kind of time commitment, what needs to happen when I put that brisket in my mouth from a physical sense, I know is not going to happen, okay? So I don't know why I would wait 4 hours in line to have brisket. So that's probably Gene's issue here. I can't pay $100 for a 16-ounce Wagyu ribeye, or at least he's having a hard time getting himself there in order to see if it's really worth it or not.
Well, the question came in both. He asked about both ribs and steak. Yeah, I think we got to separate them because unless you're talking about the heritage breed,
yes,
which are still pretty hard to find.
That's what he's talking about.
Berkshire is pretty easy to find. It's not a lot more than regular commodity pork. It is more, but you can certainly afford to buy one once. I mean, go out and buy one Berkshire slab, or if you can find it, a Red Wattle or something like that. It's not going to break the book, the checkbook, and cook it side by side with a commodity pork and see if you feel that it's worth the difference. That is easy to do, and it's not going to be that much more expensive. Now, if you're talking about beef, let's focus on ribeye, which is the best of the premium steaks. Yeah. There is, to most people, a qualitative difference between a choice, a prime, a Wagyu, and a Kobe. And in a blind tasting, unless something weird has happened with the steers, you should be able to taste a real difference. Now, the question is the preference. And I've done the side-by-side tastings.
Sure.
And I got to tell you, one bite of Kobe, real Kobe from Japan, you go absolutely ape. It's just amazing. It's spectacular. But you know what? I can't eat a whole 12-ounce steak. It's like eating 12 ounces of butter.
Very rich.
It's really, really rich. I love it. But and similarly for Wagyu, my choice, personal preference, is USDA Prime. I find that is the balance between marbling, and usually when you're talking about these high-end steaks, you're talking about marbling. How much fat is mixed in with the meat. You can see it and you can taste it. But again, I mean, you don't have to break the bank to buy USDA Prime. Wagyu and Kobe, forget it. I mean, that's really expensive. Yeah. Really expensive. And most everything you see labeled Kobe isn't. It's Wagyu. It's mislabeled as Kobe. But Wagyu, it's really worth trying once if you can cough up the cash. USDA Prime is much less expensive, and it's probably, double the price of USDA Choice. But you can find USDA Prime at really good butcher shops or grocery stores. And I think if you'll cook them properly, you really like it. And then it becomes a question of, do you want to do this on a regular basis? In my world, I shop USDA Choice most of the time. I look for the very best piece that's there. And, this is important. This is really important. This is the best advice I've ever given you or your listeners.
Okay, wait. Hold on a second. If you're going to build it up like... All right.
Get to know your butcher. I have brought my butcher on more than one occasion. The head butcher gets in early because that's when the trucks arrive. And they often leave early. So you don't want to show up at 4 o'clock and look for the head butcher. Get there early. Get to know the butcher, tell him what you're doing, chat him up, and come in around 11 o'clock with a slab of ribs and drop it off for lunch. They sit there and have lunch on prem, or they go out back and sit at a picnic table. Give them a slab of ribs. You have a friend for life, and I'm telling you, knowing your butcher is more important than knowing your stockbroker. And what my butcher will do is I'll walk in there, and I may be just shopping for chicken, and she'll come out. And by the way, I have a female butcher at one of my favorite grocers. She'll come out and say, hey, we just got in some beef primals, and they're absolutely gorgeous. And the chuck end of this one primal is prime USDA prime quality. It's just labeled choice. I'll sell it to you as choice. And she'll go out and back and cut it for me. So knowing your butcher, getting the friends with your butcher can save you a lot of money and get you some really good deals. And then nothing will make them love you more than bring them a slab of ribs.
They love to eat, for sure.
Yeah. But I would advise, spend the money at least once and try it and see what you think. I land on USDA Prime. When it comes to ribs, I'm very happy with commodity pork.
Yep.
But I've had some of the heritage breed pork shoulders, and they're really good. A really good Berkshire shoulder I like it a lot.
Here's what I would say to Gene. If you're struggling with getting the higher end beef because you really can't afford it, then don't get it. Never sacrifice your family's security over saying that you had a Wagyu piece of beef or you flew in a piece of Kobe from Japan or whatever. Eat within your means. However, if you have the means and you're just worried that you might fart away 50 or 60 or 70 or 80 bucks or $200 or whatever it is, because you can get that 3-pound tomahawk ribeye from Snake River Farms. I think it's $199. I mean, it's a big chunk of money. But if you have it and you've always wanted to try it and you're not putting yourself into any detriment financially or marriage, then get it, because the reward that you will have once you try that piece of beef is going to be it. If you cook it right, it should be one of the best pieces of beef that you've had ever. And it's not
a benchmark.
Yes, and it's not like it's just a little bit better. It is way, way better. So, and is it something that you can do all the time? No. Steven Reichland always says, stop eating beef a lot, save up, and then buy the best that you can after you've saved up for X amount of time, and then just cut out all the beef eating, which I agree with.
Yeah, a lot of my grocery store choice steaks lately. Now, you see, this is the problem. How do you keep them down on the farm once they've seen Paris?
Right. Right.
This guy
You're
has had. I mean, the parallels to wine are great. I'm glad he brought it up. Gene, once you've tasted, really great Cabernet, it's kind of hard to drink 2 Buck Chuck.
Yeah.
So you tend to, But Greg, here's a question for you. Which do you prefer for money? All money not being an object. Prime, Wagyu, or Kobe?
I have a tendency to be able to cut through that buttery richness a little bit, maybe better than you do. So I would always prefer a Wagyu.
Okay.
I've never had a true Kobe, by the way.
Oh,
but,
okay.
I mean, Wagyu for me, and I've had a number of Wagyu cuts. fantastic. If I could
Yeah,
afford it all the time, I would absolutely eat it all the time.
Okay.
And I would be happy to share it with people if it got overwhelming for the palate, too. That way they could eat it, too, and realize Shangri-La along with me. But you know me, I love to share shit.
What else you got? We got time for one more, don't we?
No, we're out of time.
No.
Yes, I know it. It goes by too fast. What can I tell you?
Can I squeeze in one more item?
All right, hurry.
I was mentioning the Karibaku 400, the big commercial size smoker I saw. I saw another device down there called the Wyze, W-Y-Z-E Temp, and it's one of these remote thermometers like Barbecue Guru but he has claimed to have developed a wireless probe.
All right.
It looks like a knitting needle. You know,
Like that,
you just stick it in the meat.
Yeah.
There's no wire.
What the hell was
And-
that thing that never came about that was supposed to be awesome? I forget.
That is never go. Don't spend your money in Kickstarter on that product. But this guy has a product on the market. I haven't tried it yet. He was showing it off down there. I'm waiting to get my hands on one, but this is an actual product, not a daydream. Keep an eye out for this product when it ships, if it isn't shipping already, and I'll keep an eye out for our review of it. It looked really cool.
All right,
and of course, this is the holy grail for people with a rotisserie chicken,
right,
your Ferris wheel restaurant pit.
Not going to get
stick it
strung
in
up.
and let it go. You don't need a wire.
John Dawson from Patio Daddio weighing in just to put a note on this Prime and Wagyu and all this stuff. John Dawson writes, Remps, if one is a Costco member, there's almost no excuse not to eat prime beef. It's typically just 2 to 3 pounds more per pound over choice. So, Gene, if you're a Costco member, you know, they got prime beef right there on the regular, it sounds like, according to John Dawson, and we all know he knows his beef. So there you go. Meathead Goldwyn can be found at AmazingRibs.com. Join the Pitmasters Club if you haven't already. It's $25 for the year, and you get free access to a whole bunch of really cool 24. I say 25, and it sounds like a deal when it's 24. Don't you know how to under promise and over deliver? Come on, Meathead, get that sales 101.
$23.95.
23. See, there you go. I've just saved you 20. I've saved you $2 right off the bat. All right, folks. It's the show discount.
$5.
Yeah,
You saved $1.05, Greg. You
I save these people $15. Look at me. All right. AmazingRibs.com, Meathead. We will see you next month, my friend. Always appreciate the time.
Always. My pleasure.
There he is, Meathead Goldwyn. Wow, look at him. Shot out of a cannon. Gene, hopefully we answered your questions. Where's my barbecue transition? It's not happening. Oh, great. We're frozen. Oh, man. Come on, son. Oh, we're literally frozen. Oh, wonderful. Oh, cripes. I can't advance. Can I? I can. No? Well, I guess we can. All right, well, I believe we're kind of out of luck on the video side. I'm going to have to go task manager. Am I going to have to stop it? Trying to stop it. Well, this is a shame. All right. Folks, if you didn't know, Big Papa Smokers, the one-stop online shop for anyone interested in barbecue, featuring a comprehensive selection of American-made grills, accessories, sauces, spices, rubs. Big Papa Smokers made a name for itself by winning an award-winning line of championship rubs. Their rubs have won almost every major barbecue competition. They've banded together with fellow California-based rub company called Simply Marvelous Barbecue to form what has now become known as the West Coast Offense. They've defied conventional wisdom. These two California-based rub makers have cornered the market on competitive barbecue and begun to redefine the flavor profile that competitive cooks from across the country have begun to aim for. They've even created 2 of their own unique competitions, King of the Smoker and the Guinea Pig. 2 different style competitions, but 2 competitions nonetheless. On top of all of that, Big Papa's has created a unique brand ambassador program called the BPS Elite Team, featuring 15 of the best competition teams in the country working together to promote camaraderie, competition barbecue, and to benefit children's charities across the U.S. Keep in mind, Big Papa Smokers has been able to do all of this with only about 6, maybe 7 years of being in the business. Ha-ha! Yeah, let's do that. Visit their website, bigpapasmokers.com. That's bigpapasmokers.com. And we will see you in just 1 second. Stick around. We'll be right back.
This is Bobby. And this is Jennifer. And we're from Cleveland, Ohio. And you are listening to the Barbecue Central Show.
Big name interviews, advice on cooking brisket and ribs, and the only host willing to share his honest opinion on all things important in the world of barbecue. It's the Barbecue Central Show.
All right, welcome back. Video is still an issue. I'm frozen up on that side, but everything else seems to be working all right. This portion of the show is being brought to you by cookinpellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets. For all your pellet-driven cookers, visit cookinpellets.com. For more information or to purchase, you can also visit amazon.com as well, if you would rather purchase through a big box retailer like Amazon. All right. We will step away and reload for the second hour here. A couple great interviews lined up for that. You stick around. You are listening to the watching. You are watching and listening to the Barbecue Central Show right here on the Barbecue Central Networks. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Happy to have you aboard here for the Really Big Barbecue Show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me!
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the Charbono, dude!
Succulent fish! What?
He ate 2 feet for wiener.
Oh, listen, Liberty, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.